Welcome to the Answers Yes podcast, where we interview some of the most interesting people that have said yes to opportunities in their life. We hope that through these stories you can learn to create your own destiny by saying yes along the way. Join us as we explore the new series covering topics such as passion, integrity, and hard work. I'm your host, Jim Riley, and I hope you enjoy these interviews as much as I do. I believe that everyone has an important message worth hearing. Hello and welcome to the Answers Yes podcast. Again, thank you for tuning in and all your comments. If you're not living in Montana like me, it is spring, but we just got 12 inches of snow overnight, so nothing like Montana spring weather. I was out plowing early this morning and having some fun in it. So anyways, hopefully you're enjoying spring weather wherever you're at. Today I have Aarron Lebaur on the line. He is a doctor of physical therapy, an international speaker, podcast host, and an author. Good morning. How you doing?
Hey, Jim. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate the invite to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. You know, I saw the request come through from your publicist, and it said physical therapy. And I tore my shoulder pretty bad a few years ago racing competitively in the Spartan series. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal, you know, and I finally went in and the doctor says, yeah, we're going to have to do surgery on this thing. They repaired me up. But more importantly, it was all about the physical therapy. I'd actually torn my bicep muscle off my shoulder too. And the physical therapist that I used up here in Montana was an athlete. And I said, look, I want to go back to competing. And he said, we'll get you there. You just got to do the work. And I realized halfway through how important that work is. He said 99% of the time it's not your surgeon, it's the lack of doing the physical therapy after the surgery. He goes, but people always want to blame their surgeon instead of them not following through. So I have this huge passion for what you do, and I was instantly attracted to having you on the show. So thank you for what business you're in and probably all the lives you're changing.
Absolutely. Thank you. It is. It's whether it's physical therapy or business, it's about doing the work,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you know, imagine that. It's about doing the work, what you get paid for.
I mean, even training, you know, racing. I mean, it's like you got to put in the time, the reps. You know, you can't just show up and expect to win.
Yeah, exactly. And what's funny is even I shocked my physical therapist because when I was done, he says, okay, well, you're good. You know, you can come back in next month for a follow-up, but I think you're done. I said, tell you what. I said, let's keep doing this for the next 2 more months. He's like, well, why? And I said, because I want to make sure I'm better than good. And as a matter of fact, my shoulder is better now than it had been in the last 30-plus years because of the extra work and doing the time. And I went out and competed in a Spartan race thereafter and was in the top 10. So do the work.
That's right.
It makes a difference.
100%.
Yeah, there's a lot of topics I want to discuss with you, but maybe if you can give us a little bit of your background and history on how you eventually became a physical therapist. You know, what was life like early on for you?
Yeah, I think I'll try to give the short answer that encompasses like the story. I went to Duke University for college, and I was there with a lot of overachievers. I was a B+ student in high school, and somehow I made it into Duke. We didn't buy a building or anything like that, but I got there, you know, and, you know, I felt fortunate to be there. I think my brain, they must have recognized something about how my brain works. It doesn't work the way a traditional student works, but I'm walking across campus like my senior year with a couple friends, and this guy turns to me and says, Aarron, you know, have you put your resume at the resume drop? I'm like, what the hell is a resume drop? He's like, well, that's where you take your resume to go get a job after school. And I was just like, what? It just didn't, you know, I wasn't on that path. I had been pre-med and realized I didn't want to spend 4 hours a day studying organic chemistry to get through that. So I got out of school, didn't really know where I wanted to go, but I knew I wanted to race bicycles and I knew I wanted to do something different. And so I ended up in San Francisco and I tried to get real jobs. They didn't pan out. I showed up in a suit for one of them. They said, we don't dress that formally here. The next one, I wore a sweater. I still didn't get the job. And I ended up as a temp and then as a bike messenger. Well, I had been exposed to massage therapy early on from racing bicycles. My mom had got me hooked up with her massage therapist because my legs were hurting. And it made a huge difference for me. So I had this epiphany one day. Well, see, I couldn't race bicycles because I couldn't afford to live out there without a full-time job. And I realized oh, I can do massage therapy, work 4 hours a day. I can train on my bike 4 hours a day. And then I'll be able to do what I want. And it was like, so I went to massage therapy school.
Yeah.
So I've been a massage therapist for over 20 years. Then the next thing that happened was patients were asking me, Aaron, you're telling me you're the first person that touched me where I hurt. I've been to PTs, OTs, massage therapists, chiropractors, acupuncture, surgeon, and no one's been able to help me until I came to see you and you actually touched me where I hurt. Well, I was actually spending an hour with them and touching them where they hurt rather than running them through like a mill of like orthopedic injuries, like how like our medical system can kind of do that to people. And I realized then I needed to go back to be a physical therapist. And my wife had encouraged me to do that. I go back to school to be a physical therapist. And then on my first clinical rotation, I saw 43 patients one day. And I realized then that I wasn't going to get paid as a physical therapist to treat patients the way that I saw that they needed to be treated, which was, at least like one-on-one for a half hour to an hour, just to be able to spend time to ask them questions, find out where their problem was. And now as a physical therapist, I could tell them, here's how long it's going to take to fix it. So that's the day I decided I had to open my own practice right out of school, because no one, I was going to want to treat patients a certain way, but the system wouldn't pay me a salary. Like I needed to see 4 people an hour to bill enough insurance units to be able to like make what I wanted to make. So I started my own business, and I did it without contracting with insurance, and everyone thought I was crazy and told me it wasn't going to work. And now I've coached thousands of other people to launch their own cash practices, even directly out of school. And so I spend most of my day coaching and creating content. So that's kind of the really short story.
Well, it's a good story. So since we're on the topic, tell us how the cash business works as a client. Because, and by the way, I do have some understanding of it, but I'd like my listeners to, because that sounds scary. Like, I can't walk in there and afford to see a doctor for what my needs are. Tell us about how that works.
Yeah, it's basically what it is us contracting directly with you, the patient, instead of contracting with the insurance company. Because, and so then between us, let's say, Jim, you are my patient, the two of us could decide, the course of your care and what you need. And I could say, hey, my recommendation is we see you for 8 visits over the course of the next 12 weeks. And then at that time, I'll know whether this has gone for good or we need to do a little bit more. And you might say, that sounds great. Or you might say, I got a race coming up in 7 weeks. Can we do it by then? I'll say, yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, if we put insurance in the mix, they might say, well, you're not authorized to see Jim that many times in the next 6 weeks before his race. Or you're only authorized to get his, knee or back to this certain range of motion. And then I'm limited in what I can do to help you. I can't get you back to peak performance or better. So those are some of the limitations. And yes, we all pay a lot for insurance, but what it does is it takes out that third party, and it allows me as the professional to make the decision based on what you need, not on how I'm going to get compensated. And so when you come into, let's say, our practice, we sit down, we chat with you on the phone for about 15, 20 minutes first. Then we bring you in and we sit down and chat for 15 minutes. We take you through a full body diagnostic movement exam, and then we give you a plan. And then let's say you do want to file a claim with your insurance. We provide you with the paperwork to do it. And like it would take me hiring a full-time person to do this. And it's like 5 times as hard to file on behalf of like a patient. Whereas patients generally, there's an easy form to fill out online, or you send in the bill that we give and they put it towards your deductible. Most people, like even in network, will have maybe a copay anywhere from $30 to $150 a visit. But that's not the cost of the care. The cost of the care is usually more than that. And some of it's covered by insurance, and a lot of times it's not. Or a lot of times your deductible, and I know I'm speaking fast, but the deductible is the amount you have to pay before insurance kicks in. It's like on your car, when the window gets broken in, you probably have a $500 or $1,000 deductible before Geico is going to pay to get your window repaired.
Right.
Same thing with healthcare. It's just you've had your service, and then a few weeks later or months later, they're like, hey, but you owe this extra amount. With our practice, it's all transparent up front. You know exactly what the cost is going to be, and we can pay it in full. We can pay as you go. We can spread it out over, a year. There's a lot of different options to do that. And the thing is we're so used to the insurance paying for it. that people get a little upset. But it's kind of like Geico's not going to pay you to rotate the tires on your car or change your oil. And really, as physical therapy, we're not just changing oil and rotating tires, but we're not replacing the engine and putting in a new one. We're not changing the transmission and rebuilding it. We're helping your body move and function and compete to the best of its ability without worrying about getting injured. And I think that's worth more than a new engine replacement. I would rather drive the original car with the original paint. And insurance isn't always going to cover it. It'll cover some of it for sure, but not all of it. And that's the best analogy I can come up with, and that's how it works. It's some people, it'll cost them less in money. Some people will cost them less in time. And it depends on what you value the most.
Well, I think, and we always want a shortcut or the cheaper version, but just using my own experience, to have a perfect shoulder back because I was able to spend the time. And by the way, I paid out of pocket because my insurance was not going to cover beyond the first couple visits. And to me, that was unacceptable for my own personal health. And I hope that people take more care in their own personal health and doing whatever it takes, because you only got one body. Like you said, that original paint and engine, there's nothing like it. So spend the time and effort. So you took a leap of faith to run a business this way, a cash business. And I've got a friend up here in Montana that just started his own doctor's practice, general practitioner, which is cash basis. And he talked about exactly what you said. He goes, I got customers that come in and I can spend an hour with them because that's what they need. And they talk more about wellness and preventative health care as opposed to let's just fix you and send you on your way with a medication or something like that. So in making that step yourself, would you encourage others to do the same? And what advice would you give them to step out on that limb and run a practice like yours?
Yeah, I think the two big things are, I would encourage other people to do it. I think it's the future of healthcare. I think what it does is it eliminates any ethical considerations around how do I treat a patient based on what I'm going to get paid, or whether someone's going to refer a patient to me in the future or not. So I think it eliminates that and it cleans up the patient-provider relationship. And the best way to do it is to figure out who's your customer. My customer is not Blue Cross or Aetna. My customer is the patient sitting in front of me. So my marketing can be directed to the patient who's sitting in front of me, or the person I want to sit in front of me. And when I market directly to the patients in a way that that makes sense, where versus the way Coca-Cola might do it, or the way you might see in the magazines on an airline that says the best doctor in New York, no one's going to really call up that person and really go see them. There's direct to patient marketing strategies, or direct marketing strategies that work really well, specifically like Google. And if we focus on who's that person, and they don't just want me to fix their problem is keeping them from doing something else in their life. And if we can focus on and understand what they want, then the marketing is going to bring in the right people and fill up the practice. And we can still provide a service of filing claims on their behalf, or giving them the information to file and helping them. But understanding that what they need and want is primary to how they're going to pay, or what their date of birth is.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. My friend, his name is Dr. Bowles. Actually, I met with him back in October, and he was talking about launching his practice in January. I said, hey, I would be happy to be one of your first customers, right? And we're a pretty healthy family. So January came and went. He did launch his business. And when we reached out to him recently, so sorry we haven't signed up yet. He goes, don't worry, I've got more than enough customers right out of the gate. I thought, wow, how incredible is that? He took a leap of faith to do the right thing, and that's what you're talking about, spending the right amount of time with your patients to give them the care that they need. Really is worth spending the money on.
Oh, absolutely. And even after the first couple of visits, once I understand what people need, we may not need as much time the next time, but it's being able to really understand what the root cause of the problem is, and then what that problem is keeping them from doing, and how that not just is it keeping them from racing or going to CrossFit, it's what is that thing that they're missing out on add to their life, and what do they need back?